Hello, guys, and welcome to the very first commentary. I am Rodimus Prime, and today we're going to be talking about my initial, I guess, scene of Halo, I guess you could say, or getting into the Halo scene for the first time, and just in general, my introduction to competitive gaming. So, first of all, let's get right into it. My name is Rodimus Prime. I've been gaming since I was about 5 to 6 years old. I've been doing this for quite some time because growing up in my household, my father was a very, very avid gamer. New system would come out, he would go get it, and we would be the benefactors of it as kids because we would get the opportunity to play all these great games when they first came out, because he was so into them. So my very first system was an Atari 6400. Absolutely crazy system. You had a lot of games that were on there that were revolutionary. You had Pong. I think you had, I think it was called. Someone will have to look this up for me, but I think it was called like Battlestar, Battleship, something like that. Basically, you had like these little Space Invaders. That was it. Okay, yeah, Space Invaders. You had that, and you had a couple other ones, but I can't really remember a lot because back at that time I was really young. I was about 5 or 6 years old. And then, we move on. We get the Nintendo. We get the Super Nintendo. We would get all these different systems. And as it would go on, I would get the opportunity to play all these great games. And like I said, continuously get a chance to try the different competitors out there and really find what my system was. And back then, it was Nintendo. I mean, they had some of the greatest games of all time. You had Super Metroid. You had, you Super Mario. You had Super Mario World. There were so many different variations of Mario back then that you could get your hands on. Legend of Zelda. These were great, great games, and you couldn't get enough of them. And it was definitely like one of those things that you had to have and you had to play to be the cool kid at school, to talk about. So we go along, and I keep playing these systems, and I get into the N64, and I get into all these other, kind of games. And in about the seventh grade, I was introduced to my very first person shooter. I was at school and I was hanging out in the lunchroom. It's probably about 12 o'clock. My buddy Nick comes up to me and he says, "Hey man, tonight we're going to go to a card shop, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to go play some games." And I'm thinking, "Hey, card games. All right, I've played these before. I know what they're about. Let's go do this." And we end up going to this card shop, and in the back of the card shop there are these computer screens, and what you can do is you can sign up for $5 and play 3 hours of whatever game that was going on that night. And that night it was Duke Nukem. And so I spent 3 hours, me and my two buddies, and we played the crap out of it. Rockets going, pistols blazing. I mean, I couldn't believe how much fun it was. And we would do that every couple weeks. We'd go to that card shop and play Duke Nukem on those computers. And eventually, it was really sad, but the card shop, ended up basically getting closed down. And it was really, really sad because that was my only real introduction into first-person shooters. And from that point on, my parents were very strict. They only let us play certain games. We got a lot of games, yes, but at the same time, they had to monitor what we could do because it was at a time when blood and gore wasn't really prevalent in our society in gaming. So anything that had it, parents were like, "Oh, this is going to ruin my kid. This is absolutely going to turn them evil." But that wasn't the case. We just wanted to play good games. So moving forward a little bit, we're going to look at my competitive gaming and kind of get into more of that, and that'll lead us towards our Halo. And for me, my competitive gaming started out on Super Smash Brothers for Nintendo 64. Really started there. My brother and I, we got an N64, and one of the first games we got on there was Super Smash Brothers. And so he was probably 6 years older than me. So a lot of his friends were already out of high school or probably just finishing high school, and I was just at the beginning or just ending middle school. And so they'd come over at nights on Fridays, and I'd stay up, and we'd play Super Smash Brothers for hours. And we would just talk so much crap to one another oh, get fucking shit on. Oh my gosh, you are absolutely awful. You know, the best sayings, as it were. I mean, back then we came up with some pretty interesting lines. I can't remember some of them now, but if I do, I'll definitely throw some in there randomly down in the commentary. But they were great. And we would also do Mario Party, and I cannot tell you when you get four guys together trying to get one fucking star, and it is a board game. It is one of the most hilarious things in the entire world. I mean, must have done 100, 200 turn games. I think if 200 was possible, we played till 6, 7 in the morning, and it definitely was the beginning of the drive. You know, to want to be better than other people at this thing that I was good at, which was gaming. I mean, it didn't matter to me what it was. I mean, I always wanted to be on top because, especially with you having an older brother who plays a lot of the games that you do, there was rivalry and competition and always wanting to, you know, prove who was the better sibling in the household. So that was kind of my first start into competitive gaming, was those nights of N64 with my brother and his buddies. And then move on further now, we get to Halo. The reason we're here, Halo, the franchise that has been in our lives for quite some time and has really, really drastically changed a lot of our lives. I can gladly say I've made a lot of friendships and a lot of really good relationships because of Halo. And I know a lot of my other friends can say the exact same thing. My introduction with Halo, I was probably in ninth grade, and I was at my buddy Spencer's house. He invited me over, and him and my buddy Casey were sitting there playing Halo 1. And they were on Warthogs, and I didn't know what the game was, and they told me it was Halo 1. And at the time, I wasn't really big into Xbox. I didn't really know what Xbox was, and they have this game Halo, which I've never heard of. So I said, I'll watch. And I watched them play for a little bit, and most of the time they were in a Warthog. And I think it was probably, what's the map called? I think it was the second cartographer, so they might have just started the game when I got there. But it didn't look that fun to me at the time. It just didn't have that standout factor that I needed for a game, which is I need a quality story, I need replayability, and I need to be able to have that 30-second window of fun that a lot of companies talk about, which is if you can't nail the first 30 seconds of fun, you're not going to have a great game. And I've heard this from several different companies, and it's very, very true. But at the time, Halo didn't stand out to me. So you fast forward again towards about the end of Halo 1, Halo 2 area, beginning of Halo 2, and I end up, for whatever reason, reconnecting with an old friend of mine that lived across the street from me when I was about 5 or 6 years old, Brent. And I had gone over to his house after we had hung out a couple times, and he was sitting there playing on his Xbox, and he was playing Halo 2, just come out. And I asked him, I said, dude, what are you playing? He goes, Halo 2. And I go, what's Halo 2? Because at the time, Halo 1 and Halo 2 didn't register to me as connecting titles, and obviously with them being as far apart as they were, me not really playing Halo 1, I didn't get an obvious chance to really experience what it was. And he goes, you've never played Halo 2? So he hands me the controller for a game, and I must have gone 4 and 25, and I did terrible, like absolutely awful, but I had fun. And as I said, there has to be something there for me to enjoy. And I don't understand what it was. Maybe it was the announcer announcing the medals. Maybe it was the multiplayer aspect that you could talk shit to your opponent. But I was hooked. So for probably the next year, almost every day, we'd go to school together. I'd come over after school, and we would sit in his little basement, and we would play Halo. And eventually our group wasn't just me and him. We expanded. We get, his buddy Wes, his buddy Brian, JP, all these different people that would come over, and we would just sit in his basement because he had the only Xbox, and we'd play Halo 2. And it was one of the funnest times I can remember because it was definitely Brent being the clear-cut best of us and us trying to get to his skill level. And the hours we must have spent playing down there together were just countless. So eventually got to the point where, as you probably have all guessed, that Brent got tired of me always coming over and all this all coming over, so he told me to get an Xbox. And I got an Xbox and got Halo 2. And for the next few months, we grinded the shit out of that game. It was was absolutely insane. And right about 2006, the year I got my Xbox, me and Brent discovered something. We were at my house, and we were on my cable box just kind of looking for stuff to watch. And he says, have you ever heard of this thing called MLG? And I said, no, I've never heard of this thing called MLG. And so he pops up Pro Circuit Episode 1 on demand, because at that time, you couldn't get the tournaments on your computer, and if you could, you had to pay for them. And I didn't know about the tournaments. He didn't know about the tournaments. This was our first encounter with MLG, and they had these Pro Circuit episodes, which started in 2006. And episode 1 was the Meadowlands, and you saw these pro gamers, these guys, going for thousands of dollars playing Halo. I had never heard of such a thing, of gaming being on such a level of, craziness. I mean, Walshy, 2006, had a Red Bull contract, multi-year Red Bull contract for millions of dollars. That was impressive to me. And so we sat, and they had all the episodes. So we must have watched all 7 episodes. And I must have rewatched those things probably, I still watch them today, so I've probably seen them 50, 100 times at least. And it was insane to me to see these matchups. You had some of the best Halo being played, and they would show you some of these live games. Most of them were Slayer, obviously, because of time constraints, but it was still awesome to see the Ogres and Walshy and Saiyan, this group called Final Boss, this dominant #1 team that had won a national championship for 2-3 years consistently. And then you had the up-and-comers such as Straight Rippin', which at the time was T-Square, Defy, Fonzie, and Fallacy. And then you had Carbon, which was another up-and-coming team, and then you had Strongside, Karma, Gandhi, and Shockwave. And that year was crazy, too, because for the first 3 weeks of the season, everybody thought it was going to be Final Boss. They had taken every tournament, won every tournament. And then Carbon makes this crazy move, they drop Strongside, and they pick up Rosiami, and they proceed to win out the rest of the season, pretty much. I think they lost one tournament in that time, but they won the rest of the season and ended up becoming 2006 national champions. And what that said to me is that a team can be upset. Like this Final Boss team was considered to be the best in the world. Nobody could beat them. They hadn't dropped a series I don't know how long, and they were just beaten by this up-and-coming Carbon team, which at the beginning of the season started as a 3-seed, but did the impossible. And I think that's really what drove me to the competitive side of Halo, really trying to maybe see how my mettle was. And so we fast forward now a little bit further to Halo 3. And Halo 3, in my opinion, was definitely one of the most competitive times in Halo. But at the same time, because of the competitive of us, we got to carefree, I guess would be the way I'd put it. And we got too spoiled. Because Halo 3 was so patched, there were so many things done right with it that we came to expect that with every Halo game we got. And because of that, I think that contributed to the death of Halo, which I'll get into a little bit later. But we have Halo 3, and I've got this original Xbox. And at the time of Halo 3 coming out, I think the Xbox 360 had been out for either 2 years or 3 years, and I had really wanted one. And I was just in the process of graduating high school, so my parents, because of graduating high school, had bought me a 360, and I was stoked. And I got to play Call of Duty 2, Quake 4 the day it came out. I had Halo 2 on the 360, and I got Halo 3. And I probably had it for a good solid couple months, and then a box red ringed, and I couldn't afford to get another Xbox 360 at the time, because at the time they were $400, $500. And you just can't afford to do that right off the bat. So I was out on Halo 3, so I'd have to go over to my buddy Brent's house again. And that would basically turn into us playing Halo again for days on end. Eventually I did get a 360. Eventually I did play Halo 3, but it wasn't till the end of Halo 3. So the only thing that really kept me going were those days of MLG where you had all these different great tournaments from 2008 to 2010. 2008, I think you had probably 7 different winners, 6 different winners. I know Straight Rippin' took the national championship, but I think Final Boss won. I know Straight won, obviously. I think Triggers Down won. I think I can't remember. I think there was one other team that I think took it that year, but it was insane, and that's what really kept me going. Were being able to catch those weekends and those tournaments and watch these pro players play, because I couldn't do that myself. And I was able to still enjoy it because the game had been given to me in a form and in such a way that I could enjoy it still. So that really was what got me through Halo 3, and unfortunately I missed out on a lot of the great stuff, because I feel if I had played more Halo 3, my Halo career would have been maybe a little bit different than how it is now, and maybe I might have actually gone to a couple MLG tournaments, which was the end-all goal. Because when you're a person, you start really playing competitive Halo, your main goal is to get to the point where you think you're tournament ready and to test your mettle against other players at the tournament level. And that was the end all be all goal for me. So I wanted to get there. And that really was the driving force of me playing Halo. So you get through Halo 3, absolutely insane game. Craziness at its finest. Will never be replicated, unfortunately. And you get to Halo Reach. And Halo Reach was a vastly different Halo than we were used to. You had sprint, you had armor abilities, you had custom loadouts, and with that, a lot of people were turned off at that prospect. But me, I enjoyed Halo, so I was going to play any game that Bungie put out. And I played probably 2 years of Halo Reach. I got to Inheritor. I put in the time and the effort, probably had over 150,000 kills. And about at the time of the 1 year mark of Halo Reach, I was playing MLG randomly one day, and I ran into Ghost Yami. He was running fours with Eli the Ninja, Ryan Noob, and Cloud. And we ended up getting Pit CTF, and I went off. I did what I do. I've got the game clipped on my 360, and when I get a capture card, I plan on uploading it to YouTube, because it was actually an insane game for me. I was really, really happy about that. And after the game was over, I messaged Gosiyami and I said, dude, it was awesome playing against you guys. Watch you guys all the time on MLG. If you guys ever want to run customs, let me know. And he messaged me back. He's like, yeah, dude, we're actually about to run some now. You want to join us? So I took that as the immediate opportunity to go ahead and jump at the chance to play with these guys. So we got into a custom game. And I ended up being on Ghost team. It was me, Ghost, Eli the Ninja, and Ryan Noob. And I think we were against Clutch, Sudith 1, Lethal, and one other person. I can't remember who it was. Oh, who was it? I honestly, I get it mixed up, but I think it was either Pistola or Victory. I really do want to say it was either one of those two, because that sounds really right. And so we played Pit, and we played Team Slayer, and ended up going 17-3. And at the end of this game, and this is the reason I don't like Mr. Lethal, Mr. Tony Lethal, is because his exact words to me and to our group were, Ghost, I don't know why you bring in these fucking tryhards and these fucking randoms. It doesn't make the game fun. And he rages, and he rage quits immediately. And that to me proved right there that when you can't handle a loss, you're a bitch. And that to me was a very immature moment on his part. And ever since, I've never liked Lethal. But because of that, I got the chance to scrim with pros for the next few months in Halo Reach. And that was some of the funnest Halo in my entire life, getting a chance to play with these people and getting an opportunity to talk to Ghost on a pretty regular basis and see how he's doing, getting into his thoughts on the game. That was really cool. And through that, we developed a pretty good, I guess you could say, overall relationship in Halo Reach. And we had talked possibly of maybe considering a team up, maybe, teaming together, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the death of Halo. And there's a video on YouTube somewhere. It shows Sundance C. Giovanni, the CEO and head of Halo, or head of MLG. And he says that Halo is on the table and it needs to be resuscitated. And that was basically a remark concerning Halo Reach and how unsuccessful it had been, because Halo Reach was not driving the crowds, was not bringing in the teams. You had 575 people competing in Halo 2, and you couldn't even get enough to fill the bare minimum for these Halo Reach tournaments. So because of that, Halo ended up being taken off of Pro Circuit. And that was a real blow to me because I'd spent so much time playing this game and it was taken away from me in an instant. And there was nothing I could do about it. And it was really, really sad. So Halo for me kind of took a step back right then and there, and I just took it as a casual. There was no point being competitive. The ALG tournaments or AGL tournaments were a fucking joke. They weren't paying. They were not actually doing what they said they were going to do, and they barely had any viewers. So there was no real want for me to compete in those. And then you bring in Halo 4, and that game just drove the crowd down even further. And it made the game go into even more, abyss. Yeah, you had a global championship, but that doesn't mean that you got a competitive game nor a competitive community and a large community. And so my Halo has just kind of been casual for the last few years. It's been me playing with my friends to have fun, get clips, put out videos, and that's probably what it's going to remain because I don't have the time in my life at the age I'm at to consistently play Halo at a competitive level, because the amount of time that is needed to put into being a Halo pro or Halo competitor is dramatic. You have to let everything else go and commit 10 to 12 hours a day to this game. It's like a job. And today people can make money on this game and make it like a job. But back in 2006, 2005, people weren't making that kind of money. You really had to grind. And that's what it's been known to a lot of people for years and years and years. And then you had Halo 5, and they brought in this pro league. I'm using quotation marks on my hands right now. You can't see it, but I am. And this whole concept of seasons. And all they've done is limited the competition. All they've done is hindered the ability and want of people to play a game and to compete at that high level of that game. And for me, that's really sad, because back in the day, you could feel that you could go to a tournament and maybe have a chance and a shot of playing. And even if you didn't win, you still wanted to compete against these people to know what you wanted, to know where you stood. And I think Halo 5 is definitely bringing the community back, but at the same time, I also think it's hindering our community in its population, because it's only driving to a certain style of player. And I think that bringing in new players is great, but I also think that keeping the population at such a high basis to make the ranking system work is needed as well. And so for Halo 4 and Halo 5, I'm not really going to talk about them too much. I kind of already explained that, but Halo 4, I got to the max rank and I played a lot of that. And Halo 5, I think I'm 145 now. Don't know if I'll get the max rank in that because it's starting to lose population. But at the end of the day, without Halo, I wouldn't have some of the best friendships I have. I mean, I have two guys that I met specifically because of Halo that are two of my best friends in the entire world. One lives in Ohio, one lives in Ireland, and they are both coming to my wedding, which is in June. So to say that Halo hasn't contributed and made my life better would be a lie, and to say that it hasn't forged these great relationships with these great people and made me think of some great memories would also be a lie. So I really have to thank Halo and Bungie for coming out with this great game, and 343 for trying to sustain it. I gotta give them credit for trying to sustain it. I may not like the content or the games they put out, but I still play them and I still enjoy Halo. So at the end of the day, I really have to thank Halo for really doing that for me. And I hope you guys enjoyed the commentary. I know I was not exactly all the time descriptive, but at the same time, tried to give you guys some insight into what's going on. And what I'm going to do at the end of each of these videos is I'm going to give a preview to the next video to what I'm going to talk about and to what to look forward to. And if you guys want to, you guys can comment. And what I'm going to do is I'll read the top 5 comments concerning the preview episode before the episode starts, and we'll kind of talk about those as we go along in the video. So what I'm going to be talking about in the next video is what I think Halo needs to come back to its prominence that it had in 2006 all the way till 2010. And we kind of got into that in Halo 4 and Halo 5, but these are going to be my main points that we're going to be talking about. A proper level system, what that means, and what needs to be implemented in the game. Constant monitoring and patches. Things that need to be looked at as maybe more constant in the game. Tournaments made accessible to the people. More tournaments, more ability to have the ability to go to these tournaments. Boots on the ground, return to Origins Halo, where there's no abilities, there's no running, none of that stuff. Skill gap equals better gameplay. What that entails is, if you look at Halo 2, you can see what drove people to want to play, and that was that the top 3 teams were the top 3 teams, and it was consistent the entire time. Halo is life. Basically, Halo's been a part of my life for 12, 14, 15 years, and I think it has for a lot of people, and I think they're just looking for a reason to come back, and we'll kind of talk more about that, and maybe the possibility of a Gaming Hall of Fame. We've got a Sports Hall of Fame. Why couldn't we have a Gaming Hall of Fame? There are people who've done insane stuff. You could put Ogre 2 in there immediately as a first inductee for how many tournament wins, for how many national championships he had in Halo. The guy did it in Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, and Halo Reach. He won tournaments in all of those games. And in Halo 2 Anniversary. And probably Halo 4. I don't know if he competed in that, but I guarantee he probably won a tournament in that. But that's what I'm saying, is there's things that we'll need to look at in the next video that I think will hopefully, what I think, contribute to what Halo needs to get back to its prominence. But I just want to thank you guys for your time. I hope you enjoy the video, and if you guys liked it, go ahead and give it a like, give it a subscribe, give me a subscribe, give it a share, and I will talk to you guys later.